my name is Lydia Huerta Moreno, and I'm an assistant professor currently of gender, race, and identity, but I did get tenure, so I will be an associate professor of gender, race, and identity starting July 1st, as well as the new chair of the Department of Gender, Race, and Identity.
My name is Mia Price. My major is psychology, minor is Black Studies and Social Justice.
Hi, I'm Addison Wolfley. So I'm a GRI major with a specialization in women's gender and sexuality studies. So this is my zone.
Hi, my name is Bianca Garcia. I am a psychology major with a social justice minor.
So I teach a variety of courses from the 100 level classes all the way up to 400 level classes and including graduate classes. The last couple of years I've been doing sort of a shared collaboration with Core Humanities. So I teach their CH203 American Experiences in Constitutional Change through sort of a GRI lens. But mainly I teach sort of like social movements 257, Women and Gender Studies 101, Women and Gender Studies 250, which is Introduction to Feminist Theory. I've taught Introduction to Latino Studies, which is GRI 272, because we do have a Latino Studies minor. We basically have 8 minors, and I can teach in some areas of those minors, and we have one major, which is just a gender, race, and identity major.
Yeah. What would you say about like the GRI department in terms of like its reach to students on campus?
I think we could do better. I think a lot of people don't know about us, so we're usually kind of like slowly discovered. And it would be great to sort of have students know more about us from the beginning.
I don't think that like UNR really does a good job in like really understanding or really like pushing out the idea of like what really goes on within like the GRI department. I think a lot of it is just one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, it exists, but it's like I think the difficult conversations that we're having within the department, like in surrounding like racism, capitalism, it's just a lot of those things that like I don't want to say like, no, it's just one of those things where we need to like have like a more like normalized conversation on that like doesn't really like get addressed or get touched.
Feelings just based off my life and the big things that have like dictated who I am now.
So I think, man, like the GRI professors I adore. Like Brian David, he's a sweetheart. He does most of the like LGBT history classes. He can be a little drab, but he is genuinely so kind and so thoughtful about what he does. Patrick Jackson is very kind too, and he's an anthropologist first, so he goes really far in that. And then obviously Lydia Huerta just took over as the like big board director, and I'm really excited for that because she's had crazy good ideas in every class I've ever been in with her. So in terms of the actual staff of the GRI program, I'm really proud of them and I love them a lot. In terms of the university as a whole though, I feel like it doesn't do a good job of educating students on why a GRI degree could be important. It just kind of offers it almost as a very performative statement of saying like, well, we have access to these things, but it needs to be reconsidered as a legitimate career, as something that continues to be necessary, no matter what side of the political field you're on either. Social justice will be a part of it.
So when you're asking me about where does the responsibility fall, I think it's a multi-pronged approach, right? It falls in a department, obviously, but I think it also falls in how we get talked about around the college, and what other schools know about us. Right, so I think advising is a really big aspect, and one of the things that I want to make sure we do that I do in the fall is to set up meetings with all the departments around campus and let them know that even though they're like in biochemical engineering, that they can still minor in something in gender, race, and identity.
History walking around, but then you're also the future walking around, and like I think the big thing is like realizing that there's like generational thing. I think my compassion and my ability to connect with the others has definitely been impacted with the amount of classes I've taken in GRI. I think just naturally, the more you learn about other people's struggles and success, the more compassionate you become.
What we do is we look at different structures that have impacted specific populations, right? For example, in Indigenous Studies, my colleague, Dr. Harry, looks at the ways in which colonialism has impacted media representation in film, how it's impacted policy, how it's impacted the ways in which we have a relationship to the land, how it's impacted environmental justice, right? So it's not just like a one and done approach. And actually, like a class like that would be super beneficial for students who are, for example, studying hydrology or forest management, right? Or for example, we have a minor in Black Studies, which really looks at the Black experience in the whole hemisphere, because a lot of people don't realize that the U.S. has many different types of Black people that come from many different kinds of places, right? Mm-hmm. Not just Africa and or African Americans.
So what skills have you gained from GRI courses or coursework?
I'd say the biggest one is probably like empathy and inclusion. I think that I've always been somebody who's so focused on social justice that I had kind of assumed that I knew it all. And I think the moments that I've had where I've been like, wait, I have actually no idea what you're talking about, or I didn't realize I was being sexist or racist or something like that in my own way, and learning how to correct that within myself has been like unbelievably valuable.
Our degrees specifically in our minors help people understand and build on those cultural competencies. Specifically, for example, a lot of the people who have graduated from GRI have gone to serve in like Cortes Maestros' office as assistants. They've managed domestic violence centers. They have done disability advocacy in nonprofits. Some of them went on to law school to do a double degree in law school and a master's in administration. We have had other graduates who went on to get hired by reproductive justice organizations, not only in the United States, but also in Mexico, which is kind of cool, you know? So I think it's just making sure people understand that there's sort of a pipeline between kind of the degrees and the skills they're getting in GRI, which, yes, is definitely critical thinking, but it's critical thinking through a systemic lens, which is like, how does the system impact the individual, and then how can the individual sort of like push back against the system in a way that allows the individual to grow and thrive, right?
What does it mean to map the self, the land, or the future? What does it mean to map the self, land, or the future? Yes.
I thought the poem that was reading, but you're referring to a poem, and I thought it was super interesting about how in our like family structures we have a like a position, and mapping ourselves that way, like in like what borders us, you know, like as like sisters or girlfriends or whatever.
So what I'm hearing is that mapping is actually a way of remembering, a way of making things visible, a way of kind of thinking about where we stand, not only in terms of land, but in our own bodies, and what the histories are.
It's always important to put yourself in spaces where you can grow and learn, and if you feel uncomfortable, that says that you're growing. So to me, if you're a student who's really scared of taking a GRI course because you don't want to say the wrong thing or you don't want to think a specific way, I think it's important for you to like come and like learn and see what we're about and be curious about it and listen with an open mind. And if it's something that we can have dialogue around, great. If it's something that informs the way you understand the world, even better, right? And if it's something that changes the way you think about what you want to do in your career, that's what we're about. We're about transformational educational experiences, right?
And they all have a like central goal for the future.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?